This was May 23rd, 2012, and this is the day that Ms. Foster and Ms. Hudson returned from where they were between the time the lights went out and May 23rd. And
were they all gone, not on vacation or whatever?
We did not know where they were at all, and
how long were they apparently not there?
Let's see, this would have been probably close to 5 weeks, potentially 5 weeks, I guess, something like that. And we were getting very concerned because that's never happened where they were gone at this time of the year for that length of time. And we know that they have a person that watches their house, and he was driving out one day, and I stopped and I asked him, I said, can you tell me, are Miss Hudson and Miss Foster, is there a problem that we need to be aware of or anything? And the person that was watching their house said, apparently Miss Hudson is in for some medical treatment somewhere in Texas, and that's where they are. And I thanked him, and that was the end of it. Now, we were sitting at home, my partner John and I were sitting at home, and believe me, at this point in time, I've been queued up at both of these pickup trucks. This Dodge Ram and that Volkswagen are diesel trucks. And she parks the one in the garage next to my house, the one in the garage across the street from my house. And I can hear those trucks start every day, and I feel like Pavlov's dog. Every time I hear that diesel start, I go to the window because I don't know what's going to happen next, and I am terrified. We were sitting in our house, and we hear the damn diesel truck coming down the road.
What date was that?
April 23rd.
What year?
Mr. Benson.
2012.
Watch your,
I'm sorry?
watch your language.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Sorry. We were sitting at home and we heard the diesel truck and we knew that it was on the road. And we thought, okay, maybe we should just let it go, or do we need to do something? And we went out onto our front patio and we saw Ms. Foster backing up their travel trailer, and they were coming down next to, obviously, our trees, and had to clear the trees that she has parked in the middle of the road easement. And she was backing the trailer into the parking pad that extends 20 feet out into the road easement. And we saw her stop, get out of her truck, look at the front tire, and look at the markers that we had put in place because we're ready to fence our yard for our dog. And we saw her look at the marker, look at the land, and proceed to back right over the corner of our lot to park the truck. And I couldn't believe it, and my partner couldn't believe it. We said, this is not possible.
Went away for 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, no, there's no damage to the tree.
They had a caretaker looking at their home, correct?
Yes.
And you questioned that individual as to when they would be back. Is that accurate?
No, I asked if there was some reason they were gone so long.
Okay. So you were told when they would be back?
No.
Okay. They returned on April 20th prior to Ms. Foster and Ms. Hudson returning. Were you approached by Mr. Benson or Mr. Klusendorf and questioned about when they would return?
Yes.
You know when that was?
It was a Friday before the Monday that they're going to return.
Okay, a week or so before they return.
3 days.
3 days before they return. Who approached you?
Mr. Benson.
Mr. Benson. Did he ask you specifically when they would return?
Yes, asked, said that noticed that they had been gone for a while, and just the neighborhood was curious of how or where they were, or what was going on.
Did you tell Mr. Benson specifically when you believe Ms. Foster would be returning?
Yeah, I talked to Pat that morning, and he told me that they would be returning on Monday.
Okay, and you told Mr. Benson?
Yeah.
All right, I don't have any other questions. Thank you. All right. They returned on April 23rd. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And as they were backing the trailer onto their property, you came out and you videotaped them. Is that accurate?
I believe my partner made
Okay, you were with them. Is that accurate?
videotape that. That's accurate.
And Pat Foster asked you to stop videotaping Blanche. She was very sick and it was upsetting to her. Is that accurate?
That's not my recall at all.
Okay. But you do acknowledge that on the day they returned after being gone 4 or 5 weeks, you were out videotaping them backing the trailer into their property.
And I explained why.
And you said they went over the corner of your yard a little bit,
Again,
right?
yeah.
Right. And you called the police over that.
Well, yeah.
Well, you said earlier you didn't want to be trivial. You said there was no damage, but they backed over the little corner. How much of your yard did they drive on? A foot? How much of your yard did they drive on?
Probably a yard into the yard on the corner. I mean, it's clearly trespassing. I mean, why would somebody do that when there's plenty of room?
You know,
They
there-
go to not do that.
He was back. How long is this travel trailer? 28 foot long, right?
Never had problems before.
There was another incident regarding that he testified to. And again, there was, in the beginning of his testimony, it indicated May 23rd, 2012, and then it was April 23rd, 2012. But it involved the date that you returned from some sort of an extended trip. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
I believe that's actually was in April. Is that accurate?
It was April 23rd.
All right. And you had been absent from your home for how long?
5 weeks.
And the day that you returned from your home, there was an issue or a confrontation, I guess,
It was.
with Mr. Benson that occurred as you were arriving home?
What happened was I drove up. Blanche was very sick. It took us 3 days to drive from Houston. She had been undergoing extensive cancer treatments at the Brzezinski Clinic in Houston, and her face was all broken out. Her throat was loaded with sores, and she had had an emergency tracheotomy while she was down there. And it took 3 days to drive home. I thought that Blanche was not going to make it. She didn't think she was going to make it either. So she got out of the truck as soon as we pulled up, and she went inside. I guess to go to the washroom or whatever, but she went inside. I had backed down, and I was by his little flags out in the street. So
Can I interrupt you?
Okay.
You said, what were you driving?
I was driving my Dodge truck with the trailer attached,
Camper.
the camper trailer.
All right, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
And so I got out to see how close I was, and I saw that I was in the middle of the road, and so I pulled off onto the shoulder. I pulled up and I pulled my trailer onto the shoulder as close to the trees there as possible, so that when I made that turn, I would not run over his flag or anything.
Sure.
And I had actually backed it into the on one shot. I backed it directly on this slab, and I was sitting there, and I didn't have time to even shut off the engine. Both Mr. Klusendorf and Mr. Benson came out of their house with video cameras flashing, and I got out of my truck and I said, "Gentlemen, please put your cameras away. Blanche is seriously ill with cancer, and if she sees these cameras, she's going to get very upset, and it's going to stress her." At that point, Blanche had come out of the house, and they proceeded to walk over in front of Blanche. They were within 5 feet of her, both videotaping her, and Blanche had put a finger over her trach and started hollering and screaming at them. And I kept pleading with them. I said, "Mr. Benson, please stop this. You're killing her. You're killing her." And Klusendorf. And they just stood there smiling and photographing them. And finally I said, "Blanche, please go in the house. You're killing yourself." please, stop this. Don't do this. I mean, we had just gone through, when we left to go to Houston, they told us back here in Holland that Blanche was terminal. And she had a huge tumor
Objection,
in
Your
her
Honor.
voice box.
This is irrelevant.
Testifying that you had some cancer treatments and things of that nature, I think in Texas, is that right?
Yes,
Okay. And you were gone 4 or 5 weeks, something like that?
5 weeks.
All right.
Lots.
And then do you recall on the date that you returned, I guess it was in late April, I think April 23rd or April 24th.
April 23rd.
Okay. Was there an incident or a confrontation that occurred between yourself, Ms. Foster, and your neighbors?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I'll just let you tell the court what happened.
We returned and we have a very large trailer and we're trying to park it in. And I was very sick on the way back. All the way home, I just said to Pat, I said, I want to die.
You felt terribly.
And so Pat said, go in the house and lay down. And I did for a little bit, and then Pat was, and I knew that our trailer was large, and they didn't want us on their property at all. So Pat had ran over, I guess, part of their property, and I heard him screaming outside. So as sick as I went, by then I was fuming, and I just wanted to. Then I said, well, I thought to myself, if I scream large enough and hard enough, I'll die, and I'll be happy. So I went, and Pat was screaming with them, or they're screaming at Pat with the cameras, and Pat saying, don't take any pictures of Blanche, she's sick. And they continued taking pictures. And I proceeded to scream at them as best as I could with a tray from my neck. Here, and it was very hard. You had to put one finger in the hole just to talk and breathe and everything else to scream. And that was it.
Okay, so this was the day you returned.
We returned. And it was gotten mad because it was just over a little tiny piece of the property we had.
It's making her sick.